no one agrees on. And that is power rankings. No one will ever agree on this, and that's fine. It's not supposed to. The reality is, look, you're going to have 10 teams. I saw a couple over the last couple days. I have some that have, I saw one that didn't have the Houston Texans in the top 10. And that was wild to me. And I respect the person that I listen to, and I genuinely think their opinion is really good, really valid. I know they do a bunch of research, and I don't want to dismiss their opinion, but it was wild to me they didn't have the Houston Texans in the top 10. But nobody agrees on power rankings, and that's why we do them. They get the conversation started, and it's really funny because a lot of people normally don't argue about the top because we all pretty much know who the top couple of teams are, but we always argue at the bottom, so let's get the argument started. So coming in for our Steppat, our Steppat Staircase, our power rankings showcasing the best teams in the NFL entering Week 8. We have at number 10, I had to bring him back. I'm not convinced. Okay, look, they're 10-point favorites. They're almost 10-point favorites, if not 10-point favorites by the time this episode is over against the Carolina Panthers. That means, yes, we all know the Panthers are ass, but not everybody's been a 10-point favorite against the Carolina Panthers. This is proof. This is the best sack differential. Bo Nix has been sacked the least of any NFL quarterback. Denver has the second most sacks in the NFL. That's how you get to the highest sack differential. This defense is legit. It's the best defense in the NFL if you want to look at pressure rates, if you want to look at covers, the way that Moss, McMillan, PS2, the way they cover, the way this team gets pressure, Bo only getting better. They're starting to get some resemblance of a running game. Yes. Are they the deepest team at receiver and tight end? No. So they're not going to be super explosive. But if you take the entirety of the roster, this defense especially, the way they are trending, this is one of the 10 best teams in the NFL. And for those of you that are also rolling your eyes and going, oh my gosh, look at point differential. Denver is one of the handful of teams that has a plus 30-point differential. So, the Denver Broncos are in your top 10. Now, I also want to clear as I say this. I try with the best of my ability, not just make these a week-by-week kind of rankings, but these are the teams that I truly believe have a chance to be there towards the end of the year. So, it allows me, I don't want it to just be a snapshot, quote-unquote, of the season, but truly these are the teams that I feel like are the best in the NFL, which is why, even with a losing record, and I know I called them my hard left and I said I was wrong and I gave you a bunch of reasons to not believe in the 49ers again. I just can't honestly look in the camera and speak into the microphone and say the 49ers aren't one of the 10 best teams in the NFL. Is Ayuk out for the season with an ACL injury? Yes. Is Deebo Samuel hurt and now has an illness? Yes. Have they underperformed on defense? 1,000%. Am I here to tell you Brock Purdy is going to deliver them despite all the injuries and no Avengers? I can't, but I also can't tell you that I don't look at the San Francisco 49ers and think that's one of the best teams in football. I do think your record and how you're playing currently needs to matter, and that's valid. I say this about the Chiefs. How you're playing right now has to matter, but I just can't make a list and say they're not one of the 10 best teams in the NFL. Will's not here today, but at number 8 is the Chicago Bears. Now, here's my dilemma with Chicago. I do think Chicago was clearly a really good team. They clearly are, because the issue and the narrative around them, and I believe it, is that they're beating teams that aren't very good. Well, you know who beats teams that aren't very good? They're good teams. You know who beats teams by a lot? You know who beat the teams who aren't very good by a lot? The very good teams. So I have every reason to believe Chicago is a very good team. Caleb is going to get better. I believe he's going to keep improving. This defense is legit. They have weapons. There's something that Denver doesn't have. They have a really good receiver room. They've got a good tight end. They have a lot of pieces here. Now, I do want to see, and which is why I think they're kind of stuck in the back end of my top 10s, I do want to see when they start playing these division games, start playing the Packers, they start playing the Vikings, start playing the Lions. I do want to see where they actually stack up head-to-head, but I cannot not have them in one of the 10 best teams in the NFL. I do still think Minnesota's better, and I know I say this every week, but my issue with Minnesota, I love the receivers, I love the coaching staff, I love a lot of the defensive pieces, I love a lot of the offensive pieces. I love so much about this team that when they had the they've been having these fake trade rumors about Matt Stafford over the last couple of days, or at least I'm calling them fake because a lot of credited reporters has called them fake. If the Minnesota Vikings had Matthew Stafford, they'd be one of the 4 best teams in the NFL. And that, to me, is why, with Sam Darnold as their quarterback, I can't put them any higher. Number 6 is Buffalo, and I feel like I'm the last person on the Buffalo is still a great team list, or great team camp. Buffalo, Josh Allen doesn't have a turnover this year. Everybody's been saying it's fluky, and everyone's been saying it's not going to happen, and they're not as explosive, this, that, and the third. They just got Amari Cooper. They just put up 30-plus points. Again, no turnovers for Josh Allen. I'm not saying that I think Lamar's having the best season of any quarterback. I think that's clear. But I also think Josh Allen has just figured it out. The game, when they always, that cliche of, the game moves slower now, I see it better. He is playing like the game is moving slower. He is performing like he understands it now. And I can't discredit that with a defensive head coach who is still, like, that defense, despite all of its injuries, is still playing well. Again, they just went out and got Amari Cooper, which is one of a lot of people's big issues with them, is that they did not have a number 1 wide receiver. Now they have one. And Amari Cooper is going to run routes, the cleanest routes you will ever see, and he's going to be super motivated because he just went from the shit show in Cleveland to now in Buffalo with Josh Allen, who, again, it just looks like he's figured it out at the quarterback position. So Buffalo, they're right outside my great teams in the NFL at number 6. Number 5 is the Green Bay Packers, and I haven't given this team a lot of credit, and I think this is this is a head choice, not a gut choice. I'm still not quite sold on Jordan Love despite what I've seen. There's things that I love. There's things that I don't love. He throws a lot of touchdowns. He also throws a lot of interceptions and a lot of could-be interceptions. That makes me nervous as far as them going long-term, but I think their explosive ability, I think the coaching here, I think the maturation and the continued success and continued growth of Jordan Love is going to be huge for this team. There's a lot here that I like. But yeah, would I say that they are outright, they're kind of with the Bills for me, but they're more explosive and more naturally talented than the Bills are. They're not as clean or as, they're not quite as buttoned up as I feel Buffalo is. And part of that is just having the younger quarterback. But Green Bay has a lot of talent. You can't deny that. They are my number 5 team. Again, this is more so with my gut says they're not quite this good, but I'm going to go with it. How do people, I get it, in Green Bay beat Houston, and I know CJ Stroud threw for 80-something yards this weekend, but my rule is I don't let one bad game destroy someone's opinion, my opinion of someone in my head, especially because, again, these aren't just snapshots of the regular season. These are genuinely the teams that I think are the best in the NFL. And, again, I saw someone who I really respect, I enjoy watching, I've watched for years. They didn't have the Houston Texans in the top 10, and that's wild to me. CJ Stroud, D'Amico Ryans, yes, has this offense struggled since Nico Collins was gone? 1,000%. But Nico is not out for the year, and so if you have Houston Texans stock, I will take it. I would love it. I will buy all of it. Give it to me. I still think this team, coming into the season, I thought this team was only behind a Kansas City or Cincinnati or Buffalo. Cincinnati is obviously totally disappointed, but this is still, in my opinion, I don't really care about the CJ Stroud stats because I didn't think he was going to come in here and only throw 4 or 5 interceptions again. Some of that is an anomaly, but the non-anomaly stuff is he's accurate, he's consistent, he is a great leader, and when they get Nico Collins back and Joe Mixon is running and CJ Stroud is throwing the ball, this is one of the best teams in football. D'Amico Ryans, love him as a head coach. So there's so much I love about this team. But I will say, I do think there is a gap. So I've been talking about quality of play and how many teams are actually like great teams or really good teams. And I think the Texans are a really good team, but I think they're really good. The Texans, the Packers, and the Bills, I think are all really good teams. Then there's a gap. I think the next 4 are just good teams, even though the Niners, again, it's hard for me to really work that one out of my system. And then the next 3, which I think there's a gap. These are the only great teams in the NFL. The Detroit Lions. I think in almost any other year, I would say the Detroit Lions are clearly 1 or 2. They would be so, and they are the easy favorite to represent the NFC. They are the best team in the best division in football. It's incredible. Jared Goff, look what he's done his last 4 games. Look what he's done just in his time in Detroit. That offense, the culture and what they've established in Detroit is special. There's no denying that. What they can do offensively, yes, is the Aiden Hutchinson injury, is it devastating? Because this feels like genuinely maybe the best chance they've ever had to win a title in the history of the Detroit Lions. But I'm not taking away from what Goff's done, from what Dan Campbell's done with this team, their running game, their offensive line. This is Tony said there's no dominant team in the NFL, and I tend to agree with him, but they look dominant when they're doing really well. Oh, I made a mistake. So, we have the Baltimore Ravens at number 2, but I'm going to be honest with you, because obviously that means Kansas City is here. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think the Chiefs are this good no more. I've been saying this, and while I'm not willing to put them below a team like Houston, if you ask me, Baltimore, who is currently playing like the best team in the NFL, this is why we step it up. The Lions have been stepping up. The Kansas City Chiefs have been stepping down. If you ask me today, and you ask me who I feel as I've watched football over the course of this entire season, the number 1 team in the NFL is the Baltimore Ravens. They are out rushing teams by 150 yards. Imagine what's going to happen when the weather gets cold and you got to make a decision. Do I want to tackle Derrick Henry, 6'2", 230, running downhill? Imagine if the New York Giants, this is a game, the Baltimore Ravens are going to play the New York Giants. It's going to be cold. And imagine what a Giants team who's probably going to be out of it, and our guys are going to really want to tackle Derrick Henry in the 4th quarter. That's a game genuinely look out. He might break the NFL single game rushing record. But easily, the Chiefs have underperformed. The Chiefs' offense is not what it was. This is who the top 10 teams are in the NFL. This has been Stepping Up.